Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 6, Chapter 5. Chapter 5 is entitled Narad Muni Cursed by Prajapati Daksha. Text number 36. Shri Daksha Uvacha Aho asadho sadhunam sadhulungena nastvaya asadhvakaryarbhakanam bhikshormarga pradarshitaha. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Translation. Prajapati Daksha said, Alas, Narad Muni, you wear the dress of a saintly person, but you are not actually a saint. Indeed, although I am now in Grihastha life, I am a saintly person. By showing my sons the path of renunciation, you have done me an abominable injustice. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. It's a long purport. Kindly hear patiently. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, Sannyasira alpa chhidra sarva loke gai. In society, one will find many sannyasis, vanaprasthas, grihasthas and brahmacharis. But if all of them properly live in accordance with their duties, they are understood to be sadhus. Prajapati Daksha was certainly a sadhu because he had executed such great austerities that the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Vishnu, had appeared before him. Nevertheless, he had a fault-finding mentality. He improperly thought Narad Muni to be a sadhu or non-saintly because Narada had foiled his intentions. Desiring to train his sons to become grihasthas fully equipped with knowledge, Daksha had sent them to execute austerities by Narayana Saras. Narad Muni, however, taking advantage of their highly elevated position in austerity, instructed them to become Vaishnavas in the renounced order. This is the duty of Narad Muni and his followers. They must show everyone the path of renouncing this material world and returning home back to Godhead. Prajapati Daksha, however, could not see the exaltedness of the duties Narad Muni performed in relation to his sons. Unable to appreciate Narad Muni's behavior, Daksha accused Narada of being a sadhu. The words Bhikshor Marga, the path of the renounced order, are very significant in this regard. A sannyasi is called Tridandi Bhikshu because his duty is to beg alms from the homes of grihasthas and to give the grihasthas spiritual instructions. A sannyasi is allowed to beg from door to door, but a grihastha cannot do so. Grihasthas may earn their living according to the 4 divisions of spiritual life. A brahmana grihastha may earn his livelihood by becoming a learned scholar and teaching people in general how to worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He may also assume the duty of worship himself. Therefore, it is said that only Brahmanas may engage in deity worship and they may accept as prasad whatever people offer the deity. Although a Brahmana may sometimes accept charity, it is not for his personal maintenance, but for the worship of the deity. Thus, a Brahmana does not stock anything for his future use. Similarly, Kshatriyas may collect taxes from the citizens and they must also protect the citizens, enforce rules and regulations, and maintain law and order. Vaishyas should earn their livelihood through agriculture and cow protection, and Shudras should maintain their livelihood by serving the three higher classes. Unless one becomes a Brahmana, one cannot take sannyas. Sannyasis and brahmacharis may beg alms door to door, but a grihastha cannot. Prajapati Daksha condemned Narad Muni because Narada, a brahmachari who could beg from door to door, had made sannyasis of Daksha's sons who were being trained to be grihasthas. Daksha was extremely angry at Narada because he thought Narad Muni had misled Daksha's inexperienced sons, Asadhu, Akari, Arbhakana. Daksha regarded his sons as innocent boys who had been misled when Narada showed them the renounced order of life. Because of all these considerations, Prajapati Daksha charged that Narad Muni was a sadhu and should not have adopted the dress of a sadhu. Sometimes a saintly person is misunderstood by grihasthas, especially when he instructs their young sons to accept Krishna consciousness. Generally, a grihastha thinks that unless one enters grihastha ashrama, he cannot properly enter the renounced order. If a young man immediately adopts the path of the renounced order in accordance with the instructions of Narada or a member of his disciplic succession, his parents become very angry. This same phenomenon is occurring in our Krishna consciousness movement. Because we are instructing all the young boys in the Western countries to follow the path of renunciation. We allow grihastha life, but a grihastha also follows the path of renunciation. Even a grihastha has to give up so many bad habits that his parents think his life has been practically destroyed. We allow no meat eating, no illicit sex, no gambling, and no intoxication. And consequently, the parents wonder how, if there are so many no's, one's life can be positive. In the Western countries especially, these four prohibited activities practically constitute the life and soul of the modern population. Therefore, parents sometimes dislike our movement. Just as Prajapati Daksha disliked the activities of Narada and accused Narada of dishonesty. Nevertheless, although parents may be angry at us, we must perform our duty without hesitation because we are in the disciplic succession from Narada. People addicted to householder life wonder how one can give up the enjoyment of grihastha life, which is a concession for sex enjoyment, simply to become a mendicant in Krishna consciousness. They do not know that the householder's concession for sex life cannot be regulated unless one accepts the life of a mendicant. The Vedic civilization therefore enjoins that at the end of one's 50th year, one must give up household life. This is compulsory. However, because modern civilization is misled, householders want to remain in family life until death, and therefore they are suffering. In such cases, the disciples of Narad Muni advise all the members of the younger generation to join the Krishna consciousness movement immediately. There is nothing wrong in this. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport. So the background for this verse is that Prajapati Daksha performed severe austerities to beget good children, and he was blessed to have 10,000 sons by name Haryashvas. And he sent them to a holy place to execute austerities to beget good children. And after they finished performing their austerities, Narad Muni happened to reach that place, and Narad Muni instructed them, because they were very advanced in austerity, they were quite fit for immediately accepting the renounced order of life. So he instructed them to not pursue Grihastha ashrama after finishing Brahmacharya ashrama, and they all immediately took up the renounced order of life. So when Daksha heard that, he became very sorry that his sons had taken up sannyas before doing their duty of begetting good children. Because Daksha is a Prajapati. Prajapati means his responsibility or duty is to populate the universe. Every time there is a dissolution, end of Brahma's day or end of Brahma's life, after that the creation again takes place, and there is need of populating the universe. So the work of populating the universe is done by Lord Brahma, but Brahma is not alone. He has got his assistants, the Prajapatis. They are called Prajapatis. Brahma is also a Prajapati because he, in the beginning, he begets the sons when the primary creation happens. That is when Brahma himself is born. So, you have heard that Brahma's work is that of creation. Actually, Brahma's work is to assist the Supreme Lord in the matter of creation, maintenance and dissolution. Because in Brahma's lifetime itself, not only he has to do the work of creation, the work of secondary creation, but he also has to assist the Supreme Lord in maintenance and dissolution, particularly when there is partial dissolution of the universe at the end of Brahma's day. So these finer details are not known to people in general. They know Brahma is the creator, Vishnu is the maintainer, Shiva is the destroyer. But that is in relation to the overall aspect of this whole universe being created, maintained and destroyed by the Supreme Lord under the agency of these three personalities. But during the course of maintenance itself, there is a need for partial dissolution of the universe. End of Brahma's day, when Brahma's night begins. Only the middle and the lower planetary systems are over-flooded with a huge deluge of water. And this is called the partial dissolution of the universe. Actually, the planets are not destroyed. And neither all the living beings have to die. Those in the upper planetary systems, the Maharloka, Janaloka, Tapoloka and Satyaloka, they just go to sleep because it's the night of Brahma. Their lifespan is same as the lifespan of Brahma, those in the upper planets. In the middle planetary system, the Swargaloka and below, maximum duration of life is the day of Brahma. That's a maximum duration. But even the Devatas in the Swargaloka, they cannot hold on to their post as Devata for the duration of Brahma's day. They cannot. The duration of their own life. They can hold on to their position as Devatas maximum for one Manvantara. That's explained in the 8th canto of the Bhagavatam. But there are other lower demigods who are called, as Prabhupada calls them, semi-gods. So their duration of holding on to their position of assisting the Lord Brahma in the maintenance of this universe is lesser than a Manvantara. So, in different planetary systems, there are different durations of life of the human beings. It's not the same everywhere. So, when we hear from the Padma Purana that there are 4 lakhs human species, they are distributed all over the universe. So, among the human species, the topmost is Lord Brahma himself, whose duration of life is for the entire duration of this whole universe, which is the lifetime of Brahma. Sahasra Yuga Paryantam Aharyad Brahmano Viduhu. Like that, in the Bhagavad Gita it is explained. Brahma's day, and similarly Prabhupada in the purport explains Brahma's duration of life itself. So some 311 trillion years, something like that, the calculation is, according to our calculation. That is Brahma's duration of life. But Brahma's day is some 4 billion or something like that. So these human beings are distributed all over the universe. But the human form of life, unlike the other forms, lower forms of life, is very special. That it is specially meant for self-realization. And because people are very much attached to the self-realization, to sense gratification, therefore, the Supreme Lord has given the path of pravritti marga for those who are materially very attached for sense enjoyment. When they get the human form of life, they can actually follow the pravritti marga, the karma kanda, jnana kanda and upasana kanda, divisions of the Vedas, and gradually come to the point of self-realization. But not everybody need follow this gradual process, because if somebody takes to devotional service, either by gradually progressing through karma yoga, jnana yoga, ashtanga yoga and coming to bhakti yoga, or by good fortune, by the mercy of the Supreme Lord and his pure devotee acharyas, if somebody, some human being or any living being even, not even just human being, even animals, birds, worms, insects, anybody, aquatics, takes to devotional service, pure devotional service, then they don't have to go through the gradual process of elevation to come to the point of seriously pursuing self-realization. Just by contact with a pure devotee, a fortunate soul can directly take up the path of pure devotional service. And even after accepting the path of pure devotional service, if such a fortunate soul is unable to complete the practice of pure devotional service in one lifetime, then directly under the protection of the Supreme Lord Krishna, they are given another chance to continue their pure devotional service from where they left off in the previous life. So this path of pure devotional service is called Nivritti Marga. And Bhagavatam is one of the very few Vedic literatures which describes exclusively this Nivritti Marga. All the scriptures are describing the path of self-realization, but most of the scriptures are describing the path of self-realization according to the Pravritti Marga. Because majority of the living entities in this creation are very much attached to sense gratification, and therefore they cannot easily take up the path of Nivritti Marga, the path of renunciation. The path of Pravritti Marga is the path of regulated enjoyment. And I don't have time to go through all the points in the purport, but I'll just briefly mention, you have to study the purport in detail. So in the purport, Srila Prabhupada first of all explains that Prajapati Daksha is accusing Narad Muni when second time, okay, I started describing that Prajapati Daksha begot 10,000 sons called Haryashvas, and they were instructed by Narad Muni to become sannyasis without going through Grihastha Ashrama because they were ready to accept the renounced order of life, the path of self-realization. And when the Prajapati Daksha heard that, he became very sorry and he was pacified by Lord Brahma. Doesn't matter. You can beget some more children who will serve your purpose. So he begot 1,000 more sons called Shavalashvas. And the Shavalashvas were similarly sent to the holy place, and they were supposed to execute austerities to beget good children. And again Narad Muni did the same thing. Because they were very advanced in austerity, he preached to them and they also accepted the renounced order immediately. And when second time Prajapati Daksha heard that his second set of sons also were similarly preached to by Narad Muni, and they did not come back to do their duty of entering Grihastha Ashrama and beginning children, then Prajapati Daksha became very, very angry at Narada. So when he met Narada, he spoke as follows, and that's the verse that we are discussing, the first verse that Daksha spoke. So here Narad Muni is being accused of being a asadhu. Asadhu means greatly dishonest non-devotee. So Prabhupada says, who is an asadhu? Sadhu means one who follows all the rules and regulations given in the scriptures, and accordingly in the Varnashrama Dharma system there are rules and regulations mentioned for the 4 social divisions and the 4 spiritual divisions. So there is Brahmana Dharma, Grihastha Dharma, Vanaprastha Dharma, Sannyasa Dharma. And there is Brahmachari Dharma, Brahmana Dharma, Kshatriya Dharma, Vaishya Dharma, Shuddha Dharma. And there is Brahmachari Dharma, Grihastha Dharma, Vanaprastha Dharma and Sannyasi Dharma. So all these are nicely described, but the goal is Varnashrama Charvata Purushena Parapuman Vishnu Raradhyate. The goal is to come to the point of worship of Vishnu and thereby accept pure devotional service and become a pure devotee and go back home, back to God. But everybody need not go through that. Somebody who is fortunate to come in contact with a pure devotee can immediately accept, by the mercy of the pure devotee or the Supreme Lord, the path of pure devotional service, and simply concentrate on self-realization. And in doing so, they don't have to follow the Varna Dharma or the Ashrama Dharma. They don't have to do that. So, Prabhupada explains in the purport that actually the duty of Narad Muni and his followers is to show everybody the path of renouncing the material world and returning home back to Godhead, if they are able to do so. Anybody who is able to do so should be shown this path and not instructed in the path of Varnashrama, Dharma, gradual elevation to the stage of perfection. Then Srila Prabhupada explains the path of the renounced order of life. The path of the renounced order of life, according to the gradual process of elevation, is that one goes through the stages of brahmacharya, grihastha, vanaprastha and sannyas. However, if one is able to accept the renounced order of life without going through the gradual stages of elevation, then one can directly accept sannyas without going through the grihastha and vanaprastha after being trained as a brahmachari. In very, very extraordinary cases, one doesn't even have to go through the brahmachari ashrama also. Directly in contact with a pure devotee or the Supreme Lord, one directly accepts pure devotional service with full detachment. And such detachment is a blessing of a pure devotee or the Supreme Lord upon those who are ready for accepting such detachment. Otherwise, generally, even on the path of pure devotional service, one has to be trained up as a brahmachari. And after being trained as a brahmachari, one can either enter grihastha after completing brahmacharya training, but even in the grihastha under the direction of a pure devotee, in the nivritti marga, one maintains oneself as a mendicant or a bhikshu, a beggar, not earning money for even maintaining one's livelihood. One simply depends on the Supreme Lord for maintenance, and whatever comes by the arrangement of the Supreme Lord. This is explained by Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita. Yadrichalabha santushto dvandvatito vimatsaraha. The 4th chapter explains those who have completely surrendered to the Supreme Lord and accepted the path of pure devotional service, the path of progressing in cultivation of transcendental knowledge, beyond just executing one's prescribed duties. Beyond that, if one is fortunate to follow this nivritti marga, then one does not even accept a means of earning one's livelihood. So, briefly, Prabhupada explains the method of earning one's livelihood according to the regulated path of progress, Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra. Then he says that Narad Muni showed the path of Nivritti Marga, instructed the path of Nivritti Marga to the sons of Daksha. Well, Daksha's idea was they should follow the Pravritti Marga and go through the gradual process of elevation through brahmacharya, grahastha, vanaprastha, and sannyas. Now, Prabhupada also says, just like Daksha misunderstood Narada's instructing his sons, similarly, even now, the same phenomenon is occurring in the Krishna consciousness movement, because in the Krishna consciousness movement, we strictly follows the path of Nivritti Marga. Those who are agreeable, those who are able to understand the importance of this opportunity in the human form of life to simply strive for self-realization without bothering to go through all the gradual steps in the path of elevation to Krishna consciousness, then they can directly take up this path of pure devotional service, where whether one is a brahmachari or a grahastha or a vanaprastha or sannyasi, whether one is by acquired nature, one is a brahmana, kshatriya, vaishya, shudra, or even a chandala, under the guidance of a pure devotee acharya, one can directly accept this path of nivritti marga. In the path of nivritti marga, there is no endeavor to maintain oneself by following the rules and regulations of the pravritti marga. Simply depend on Krishna and execute mainly the process of Krishna consciousness. So this is very easily misunderstood by common people who do not know, who are not educated, or who have a wrong understanding of those following this path of Nivritti Marga. Prabhupada explains the misconceptions of the people, so-called civilized people in this modern age, that they think that when some youngsters follow the principles of Krishna consciousness, they think that when they are prohibited to eat meat or drink liquor and all such four regulative principles, then there is question of living a positive life. All negatives, they think no positive life. But what they don't understand is that when there are restrictions and so many no's, there is one very, very positive injunction for positive life, that is chanting of the holy name of the Supreme Lord. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama. This chanting is, the process of chanting this Hare Krishna mantra is the blessing of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. That anyone, any living being, if somehow is able to contact a pure devotee or the Supreme Lord directly and begin this chanting Hare Krishna, then very easily they develop detachment from everything material. And they are able to follow this path of pure devotional service of the Nivritti Marga, the Bhagavata process, without any need for bothering about their maintenance, their basic maintenance. This is the blessing of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So in the line of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, which is the line of pure devotional service, line of the Brahma Madhva Gaudiya Sampradaya, in this particular line, the Krishna conscious movement simply advocates anybody who comes in contact with this movement to chant Hare Krishna, follow the four regulative principles, four prohibitions, and try to elevate oneself in Krishna consciousness simply by following the Nivritti Marga. But even in the Nivritti Marga, if somebody is not able to remain a Naishtika Brahmachari, or somebody is not able to immediately accept the path of the sannyas order of life, the path of the order of renunciation, even then they can remain as a brahmachari or a grahastha or a vanaprastha or a sannyasi, whatever, and still follow this path of Nivritti Marga. Now this, especially in the modern age, how to follow this path of Nivritti Marga, at the same time not being able to accept this Naishtika Brahmacharya or Sannyasa immediately, that has to be learned from the expert spiritual master, Srila Prabhupada. So Prabhupada has given us instructions also how we can maintain ourselves while following the path of Nivritti Marga. It's not the conventional path of following all the rules and regulations of Varnashrama. Neither it is a concocted way of somehow getting some money to maintain oneself. No, it is a very definite path. That's why Chaitanya Mahaprabhu instructed his followers, his chief disciples, the 6 Goswamis, to write extensive literature describing this path of Krishna consciousness. Again, this is given in the scriptures, but the 6 Goswamis have extracted the portions of the Vedic literature which describe this Nivritti Marga, exclusive following of this Nivritti Marga for our present time. For our present time. So accordingly, Srila Rupa Goswami in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, he directly explains anybody can take up the path of sadhana bhakti. And in sadhana bhakti also, the beginning is Vaidhi bhakti, follow the vidhi, the rules and regulations. 64 positive injunctions and 64 offenses to be avoided in deity worship, 10 offenses to be avoided in chanting Hare Krishna. Like that, the prohibitions and the positive injunctions, vidhi nishedha. So Srila Rupa Goswami especially gathered from different portions of the Vedic literature where these are described and compiled it as Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, and several other books also, Upadeshamrita or Hari Bhakti Vilas given by Srila Sanatana Goswami. Many books the Goswamis have given. Nana Shastra Vicharanaika Nipuno Sadharma Samsthapak, for establishing this path of Krishna consciousness for the modern age. The 6 Goswamis have studied scrutinizingly all the scriptures and given us the essential principles of the Nivritti Marga, Bhagavata Dharma. Of course, Bhagavata Dharma is described in the Bhagavatam itself. What is the need for the Goswamis to describe it in the other books? Because Bhagavatam itself is very elaborately describing this, and not everybody may have time or may not be able to patiently study the Srimad Bhagavatam. So the Goswamis, in addition to explaining the Bhagavatam, they have given commentary on the Bhagavatam. They have explained the Bhagavatam. They have also written these other books to guide us in practicing Bhagavata Dharma, which is the Nivritti Marga described in the Bhagavatam. So I'll stop here. Rantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai.